Welcome to the Parts and Labor Podcast, the podcast that explores strategies, systems, and stories that drive salon success. I'm Alicia, founder and CEO of SalonScale.
And I'm Whitney, head of sales here at SalonScale. Welcome to the Parts and Labor Podcast. Okay, welcome back to the Parts and Labor Podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Whitney.
And I'm Alicia.
And today, another exciting episode because we have guests with us. We have Megan and Brad from Studio M Salon and Spa, and they are going to tell us all about kind of their experience with bringing on SalonScale, what it did for their bottom line, how their team felt about it, kind of the usual that everybody wants to hear when bringing on system. Megan and Brad, if you guys could just kind of introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about kind of your business, and let's just start there.
So I'm Megan Rickle, and I am the very proud owner of Studio M Salon and Spa in Findlay, Ohio. This December will mark our 12th year of being opened. Before that, I was an independent nail tech for 18 years. So I have been in the industry. I always know this because my oldest daughter is going to be 30 this year, 29 years. So
Wow.
29 and counting. I had an opportunity, never wanted to own a salon. I was an independent nail tech. And my whole career as a nail tech, I was the only nail artist at both of the salons that I worked at. So I pretty much was able to do what I want. Back then, the suites and stuff weren't really it wasn't. There wasn't that just wasn't a thing. But looking back, that's kind of how I ran it. Like, I was in a salon, but nobody bothered me. I could make my own prices, all that stuff. So I never really I wasn't unhappy, and I didn't really like the money I was making, but back then it was good at the time. And I, like a lot of salon owners, kind of just stupidly fell into owning a salon, and it was the best decision I ever made. The difference from 12 years it's just been crazy. And thank God about 3 years ago, I decided there's got to be more to this industry than just like hair shows, because after COVID, it just stopped. And so that's the time that we used our salon to go and have fun, but really to learn, because I didn't know that there was a whole world of education out there, like in podcasting. And once I found out, I got obsessed. I couldn't listen to enough like education. And before that, I would have told you I hated to learn. I didn't like school. Well, no, I didn't like to learn about history and math and stuff like that. But I was listening to real salon owners, like people like me. And I didn't realize how lonely being a salon owner really is. I mean, I have a team that loves me so much, and the loyalty and all that, it's great. But all the ideas and all the fears and I'm in charge of 20 employees' livelihood, I didn't really think about it at the time. Thank God, or I probably would have been a lot more stressed. Like, it just hit me that, Megan, what you do is really making a big difference. And then that's when I got into the podcasting, and I just kept hearing, know your numbers, know your numbers, know your numbers. You need to know your numbers. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Well, you know what? My mom does our bookkeeping, and Brad every once in a while would check. And I was getting a paycheck. The salon was running. We were paying our bills. I would see, like, Brad and I would play this game, and we do Vagaro, and we'd always do like, what did we make last year? And what did we make this year? All this stuff. And our numbers, like, were numbers that I didn't even know how to relate to. I mean, I just was like, wow. He'd say, no, babe, you know that's not good. And I'm like, well, no, I understand that. But then I am Studio M. So I just knew I really didn't know the numbers the way that I should know them, owning the type of salon that I owned. And I kept telling Brad I need to know my numbers. He's like, yeah, we need to sit down and talk about your numbers. And I also knew from just listening to different podcasts that people would say that, and I am the same way, I knew there was going to be a time that what we were doing was not right, because I knew that the SalonScale, and then there was other competitors out there, and that I knew that we weren't doing it. But I also knew that it was going to be such a struggle to talk to Brad about it and explain to him, and it was just too much. And if we're doing fine, then why does it really matter? Well, then he started digging deep one weekend. I had a weekend away with girlfriends, and I came home and he had a to-do list to do. And I walk in, and I'm not kidding you guys, he literally was in the same spot when I left as but the look on him was not like, hi babe, have fun. It was like, we need to talk. So long story, he went through all of our numbers with a very fine-tooth comb and said, we have problems. And I said, what? And he goes, you have about 6 weeks of cash flow before you have to shut down. And I was like, what? Now, mind you, there was so much other stuff going on personally that this is the last thing that I wanted to hear, but it couldn't have been any better, because it's like now or not, never. And I said, honey, you have to listen to me. I just listened to a podcast about SalonScale, and I told him everything I knew. And he said, okay, well, I'll figure something out and I can do that. And I said, no, we are not going to do this ourselves. And I said, they said that there's like I think at the time it was like a 14-day trial or something like that. And I'm like, I just talked to somebody and we can have it up and running tomorrow, next week. Like, we can act fast on this. And that's exactly what happened. And now I'll take it. I'll let Brad go from there.
That was the longest introduction I have
God.
It was so long, it took your breath away there for a minute, didn't you?
This is my wife, Megan. That introduction. So you guys can have fun editing that. So just an introduction for myself. Megan and I have been together 10 years. And she's right. I have not been a part of the finances or the salon for most of that time, until probably a year and a half ago that we really got involved in this thing.
Thank you.
But my background is a corporate background. Schooling is engineering and business.
Smarty pants.
Operations. So
Boring.
I do have a full-time job, and it keeps me very busy. But this past winter is when Megan and I had a real come to Jesus meeting about the salon and where it was going and what we needed to do. So we sat down, and that's what we did.
Dove into the details. I think at the end of the day, Megan and Brad, I think you mirror a lot of salon owners. This is exactly what happens. It's a visionary, predominantly female-owned salon that is creative and very revenue focused and culture focused. And so then on the other side of the business, when we look at the bottom line and we look at the checks and balances of the business, it usually becomes someone like their partner, like a Brad in their life, that kind of comes in and finds out what is really going on in the business. And I think, coming to really what you were saying, Megan, about knowing your numbers, I echo that so much, because I used to be, terrified to, where do I even start? And I'd almost go into overthinking, well, I need this detail and this detail and this detail. I'd go a little too intense. But I always kind of started to get to the point where I programmed knowing your numbers, it's not necessarily knowing them, it's knowing what to do with them. So, and who to go to find them. So it's like, if you can find a Brad, if you can find someone to get you the numbers so that you can then know what to do with them, that's the perfect union to be able to continue to grow a company. So I'm not shocked that we're speaking with you guys today.
And let me just add, Brad and I met, this is not our first marriage, and he's the first corporate person that I met that I wasn't like intimidated by, because I never had any schooling and stuff like that. Brad speaks my language. If he has to say, Megan, they made $500 and you take half of that, what is it? So and I don't care, because that's how I learn. And before, probably 2 years ago, I would be like, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I never even wanted to know, because I didn't think that my brain could understand that. Well, that's something Brad does really, really good, is the way he talks to us. He doesn't make us feel stupid. He does very well with the team that we have. So I have to just say that, because that's what really helped too.
But I do roll my eyes a lot.
Oh yes, but I don't care.
Trouble for that.
It wouldn't be going through your business without a few eye rolls, right?
Exactly.
But Ashley, I've listened to all of your podcasts. You guys are spot on in terms of knowing your numbers and, top line versus bottom line. And, just because you have a healthy revenue income does not mean you were successful. I mean, those things are important for salon owners. And, you made another point, if, Meg and I make a very good partnership, because she is, as you can tell, very marketing driven, social driven, customer service driven. She brings a side that is absolutely required to run, maintain, and grow a business. The finance piece of it, she's going to struggle with. There's not a level of education or training that we can do that's going to get her up to the level where she needs to be. And that's where she has a partner that comes in and helps her and supports her and that she listens to. So that's important. It doesn't necessarily have to be the owner of the salon that knows all the numbers, but they have to have that consultant next to them and guiding them along the way. So.
And like, when I say I know my numbers, I don't know the exact numbers, but and daily, I don't know if I know my numbers exactly like Brad knows them, but no matter where we are during the week or whatever, if there is something that's not right, I mean, he's letting me know. And that is what I really like, because my mom used to do the numbers, but nothing like this. She did payroll. And she would say, Megan, watch the purchases. She's like, we only have this amount of money and we might not, and we have payroll. We have a big payroll this week. And I'm thinking, well, if we have a big payroll, that means we made a lot of money. Why do we not have any money to pay? It just didn't click with me. And actually, it didn't really click until you explained to the girls, like the way we introduced it. I was actually learning for the first time. It's so embarrassing to say as the owner, but I mean, you don't know what you don't know. What?
It is what it is.
Yeah. So as long as I know now, but.
So you guys opened in 2013. So you've been open for 12 years. One thing, Alicia, I've heard her say several times before, is those first few years are like, you're on the hype train, like you're the new salon in town, like things are good. And you kind of don't really have to worry about your numbers quite as much because you have this surplus. And then at some point, kind of down the line, when you talk to a more seasoned salon owner, that's when things kind of start to turn. That's when it's nice to hear that was still like the best decision you said you've ever made, was opening this salon, because I feel a lot in your position kind of this far in aren't quite feeling that way. They're kind of ready to come and wash their hands of it and get done. But did you find that, like, was there a certain number of years in that things started to really get harder? Did that correlate more with like how quickly costs were rising?
Yes, absolutely. Back when we started, I mean, a color tube was like
$2.
$2. And you know, gloves were, I don't know. Just the supplies were very minimal compared to what they are now. And as we continued to grow, we opened up as a 5 chair salon, and now we are a full service 10 chair, you know. As we continued to grow, our numbers kept getting higher and higher and higher, but yet we weren't making any money. And I just didn't understand. And Brad just kept saying, our cash flow, you know, is bad. We're missing money. We're losing money. You know, and it wasn't until he figured out that, you know.
Well, I mean, 12 years ago, the cost of goods sold for a salon was probably in the neighborhood of 2 to 3%, right? Of their total costs. And that has steadily increased. So that, I mean, they had a buffer when they started where they didn't necessarily have to worry about the product and what they were using in the back bar. But as time went on and as you went into COVID, it was getting, you know, looking back historically at the numbers, you could see going into COVID, you know, things were steadily increasing and we were going to have some issues. But then coming out of COVID and what we're seeing on the cost of goods sold versus where we were at financially, it took a hit, took a big hit. And then, I mean, just recently, over the last 18 months, it's been crazy. This year has been crazy. I mean, we've seen increases of 50% just this year. And
wow.
so
yeah, and that's not going to stop, right? It's always going to continue to increase.
You know, when you're buying $5,000-$7,000 a month in product, and you see those numbers go up, it can take a toll on any type of a company.
I think that's where I hear specifically COVID mentioned often from salon owners as like that is where things started to get really bad, and it's been almost insurmountable to compensate for that. But two, that point that you make, like how much, you know, spending $7,000, I think a lot of salons realize that this is an issue, kind of like what you said, Megan, when you're making a lot of money, like, what do you mean you don't have the money to pay them? Well, it's because these costs are rising that you have to put out before you can even see a client. And it becomes pretty apparent when you go to reorder color or gloves, foils, these things, and it costs a lot of money. That's a lot of times too, like payroll. It's like, well, what do you mean we don't have the money to pay for this? We used all this stuff. Clients paid for this. How do we not have the money to repurchase it?
Well, that's exactly it. And it wasn't just the cogs, it was everything. I mean, when you look at rent, utilities, it's all going up. You know, when I first met Megan, I used to complain about how can these women go in and spend $150 on a color? That is absolutely ridiculous. What are they?
It's a light day.
But when you get down to it, I mean, I know a lot more now than what I did. And I think sometimes when somebody comes into the salon and they get the bill for a highlight or, you know, a root touch up or something, and they can see what the cost is that they are providing, or, you know, what they're going to be paying the service provider versus what the actual amount of product is that's going in their hair. It helps them understand, well, geez, I just put $20-$30 of product in my hair. You know, of course, labor is going to be, you know, X amount more because of that.
That's a really interesting point you say, Brad, because we mentioned from time to time, like there's a huge misconception between like, well, it's $150. How do you not have money to, you know, how are you not multi-millionaires as salon owners? You know, when you think, because the perception of even stylists, how they see the owner, or, you know, citizens, how they see a salon owner charging those kind of prices is like, they're rich. You know, how could you not be charging a lot of money for your hair? But then when you really break it down, and Alicia says this often, like after, you know, she was running a $1 million salon, but after all the bills were paid, it was just right back down to zero each month. And it's, you know, there's, like I said, there's just this big misconception between kind of the way the public views a successful salon and the actual realities of what the numbers equate.
I'd love to talk about, you know, when that moment you talked about bringing into SalonScale into the business and making that moment, like, I think we need to do this. Can you take us to that moment of like, what was that like when you took action, what was it like to introduce this to your teams?
So Brad said, I don't know, I feel like there was like, it was like during.
You need to put some context around this. So in October, she lost her sister-in-law. We were going through a hard time. December came, my mother just passed. She was going on a girls' weekend to kind of get her head out of things at, the beginning of January. That's back to her original comments where she comes in and I'm still sitting there in the office crunching through the
It
numbers,
was February 2nd, I know the date.
and she's livid at me, but then she sees my look on her face, and you can take it from there.
So then, I called and I talked to somebody, and they were so nice. I realized that, that it was just such a smaller team, and that they, excuse me, that it wasn't, I just liked it because it just felt very personal, and I was able to explain and they understood. And so, anyways, I think I explained saying I'm going to have my husband call because he's the one that's going to do it. And then do you remember who you talked to?
Amy.
Oh,
Yes.
And so then, Brad and Amy spent the evening together, and Brad's calling me saying, now on this toner here, or now what do you do with this highlight? And he's like, knows all these terms and stuff. And
Took a while.
And he worked a couple days. So that was on probably a Monday. That Thursday, just 4 days, we had a emergency salon meeting. And it was like late at night, and it was like pitch dark. I just remember it being so late. It was like 8 o'clock at night. And
we introduced it. Megan had tried this before with, one of your competitors. It was more complex. It was more costly, a lot more costly, and it just didn't fly. And she was trying to do it for different reasons back then.
Just to save color, like it just because it was a weight.
Same concept, but it did not fly. Probably 4 years ago that you tried.
Oh, it's been okay, yeah.
But anyways, so we felt that the girls might be nervous, have some apprehension about doing SalonScale. So I felt it was important that we go in and explain to them the situation. So we explained to them the financials, most of the girls in the salon understand financials at the same level that Megan does. So it wasn't something that we had to go into detail on in terms of the accounts, but we had to explain to them in very high terms as to where we're at and why we're at in this position right now and what we need to do and how we need to take action. One of the first things that, comes to mind is raising prices. Maybe we should be raising our prices and understanding the impact that would have on the salon itself. But when we looked at that, it's not an answer. The salon, and it's a commission-based salon, raising prices would have been, number one, very difficult for some of the clients that we have as well. Number two, we could not raise ourselves to a price point that would get us out of the situation, the cash flow position that we were in. So we needed to do something differently. We need to do it pretty quick. So in order to do that, when Megan introduced SalonScale, I looked at it. I said, I'm a computer engineer. I can build that. She looked at me and she said, no, you're doing it this way. So that's when we called Amy at SalonScale. We set it up. It was super simple. So when we introduced it to the girls, the prelude to the introduction was going through the high level, number one, revenue, the cost of goods, the rent, the insurance, and showing where everything was going up in terms of our costs and what was left at the end of the day and what we had to address. And we explained to them the situation on the pricing and what they are charging their clients. it's low, it needs to go up, but that wasn't gonna solve our problem. And we introduced SalonScale at that point. At that point in the presentation is when they understood, okay, we've got an issue, we got a problem. How are we gonna address it? And then we presented the solution as to how we were gonna address it. So we built the story. It was a true story. They understood it, they comprehended it, and I think that that allowed them to understand, okay, let's work together with Megan to make this thing a reality. And then
It actually brought us closer. It really did.
as a salon.
As a salon, because they understood where I was coming from, and maybe now they understood why I couldn't, get new chairs right away, or whatever, because I am the one that works saying we'll do this, and I'm all the shiny stuff, and then I go back to tell Brad and he'd be like, no, and I'm like, what do you mean? So I mean, it definitely saved our salon.
We started, I don't know, whatever the Monday was, the first Monday of March 1st, March 3rd.
Yeah.
And it went off without a hitch. I mean,
Amazing.
not one single problem. All through March, all through.
To this day.
Yeah, the only hiccup that we had is we were a little late in updating the pricing from our, what we're doing in terms of color and toner. I mean, that just shot up underneath our eyes, and we had a problem is to, update that, monthly or once a quarter, but it shot so fast we couldn't keep up with
Well,
it.
how much did the one color tube go up from March to
So
August?
when we started, it was $6 for a tube of just talking color right now, and now it's $9.50, 55 cents for that same tube of color.
And
Wow.
did you guys start in 2025, like March of 2025 this year with SalonScale? Yeah, so it's been quick. So went off without a hitch, started within March. How quickly did you kind of notice results?
Instantly.
It was instantaneously. So
We are the healthiest our salon has been at for a long time, and I was shocked when Brad said we have 6 weeks, or we're gonna have to shut. And at this point, we are now at one of the healthiest
it's really
spots.
turned us around.
It really did turn us around right away. That's why I just don't understand to salon owners, like, you can't afford not to. I don't even care if you are making money. Like, and if, for me, I'm obviously SalonScale, but to not do anything, it just doesn't even make sense in my brain now. Like, why did we go all this time?
One of the things that we thought that we were going to have pushback on was our customers.
Mm-hmm.
We thought that, oh boy, this is going to be a tough one to pass through. But I think the fact that we educated the stylists and had them understand what we were going through and why we were doing what we were doing, they were able to convey that message in a more simple, toned down version to their clients, and gave them a better way of passing the message along. And quite honestly, we had zero. There's 1, 2, maybe 3 clients that raised an eyebrow.
But that's it. No one even says anything.
Mm-hmm. And so I checked out your service menu too. So what I found is there's a really wide range of ways that salons kind of showcase this on their service menu, and different verbiage as well. What did you guys choose to do kind of on your service menu, letting clients know about this charge, or kind of the way that you price your services?
Well, we put a sign out up front, like when we cashed out, and that's it, really, I think.
And we had each of the clients have a discussion with the stylist prior to the charge taking place.
Yes.
And then we allowed, based on the stylists, we allowed them to have, if they wanted to have a grace period, or for some customers that
if they didn't prepare, we just say, well, next time, there will be a charge, and
that was it.
I would say, oh, sorry.
It went very smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's probably the number one thing. Alicia, you probably agree that holds salons back is fear of what the client's going to say. But there's a saying that we kind of say all the time too: when you take care of your stylist take care of your clients, and the business takes care of itself. So really, I mean, that's kind of what we recommend too: empowering your stylist so they feel comfortable with what to say, because it really does just make sense. It just makes sense. The whole concept of it makes complete sense when you really break it down, especially in a world where everybody knows that cost of goods are rising exponentially. So it's a way that you just pay a fair way to pay for all parties involved, and where you can just pay for what you use, and you're not overcharged or undercharged. But again, just having
Yeah,
that transparency.
I totally agree. And one of the other things that we haven't even mentioned in terms of the other benefits is all the historical information.
Oh, yeah.
The stylists absolutely
Love it.
love it. That they can go back to their client, take a look at the history, see what they did. That's been a huge side bonus to what we're doing. So
That's
And
amazing.
would you guys, do you happen to know kind of like, so you started in March, and from today, do you know like the like a dollar value of what the business had made?
100%, we know.
yeah, the average cost per, whether it's a root touch-up highlight or, some other service, any service that requires a product, the average that we're paying for those services is $13.99 back to the actual client that they're getting charged for it. Some are more, some are less, again, based on the amount of color that's used, but we've generated a sizable amount of income because of it. $28,789, I think, as of
You're,
this morning.
yes, actually, yeah, I was just into your account too. So I think it's up to 29,000, but yeah, you guys are spot on.
Oh, see, yeah.
Yeah.
That's access to it.
It's such an incredible story to hear you go from cash flow, we have issues, six weeks left, to making a change and implementing it so quickly. And after we talked to thousands and thousands of salon owners just like you, I think that is that introducing it to the teams and how to do it, and seeing how you found the issue, found a solution, and then also the way you approached your teams, talked to the teams, and got them all on board. It just shows the strong leadership and the clarity to the teams is really what was needed. And I think that's a great example for anyone listening, is like, this is how you implement and find those results that you're looking for. And so I kind of want to ask a little bit more about, or I guess it would be, if you were to speak to another salon owner, I know Megan, you kind of talked about this, but if another salon owner were to come to you and ask you about SalonScale, what steps would you tell that person to take, and what would you say to them?
Well, I would tell them, first of all, there's just, you can't afford not to. That's really all I would say. And then I'd ask them, do you want to hear my story? And then I would, of course, tell them my story. But I believe that on the outside, everybody would be very shocked. And that's why it took a lot to come, on our podcast and be transparent, because in our town, I don't know a lot of others, like their businesses and stuff, but I cannot be the only salon owner that looks like everything is going really well on the outside and just holding their breath trying to make payroll on Friday. And I would just tell them that it's about your numbers. Like, I feel so much more calm and relaxed as a business owner because I have the confidence that I can walk in there and that we have a bank account that has a high balance, that we can, we can pay our bills and, that kind of stuff, which, I mean, we could never not pay our bills. It's just, this is crucial. This is essential. Today, owning a salon, and with what the salon industry is, you know, about to become, you won't make it, you know, 6 months without this. And it's the easiest thing that a salon owner can do to secure their own salon. And
Yeah,
help me out.
want me to help you out?
Yeah.
So
I just don't understand why a salon owner wouldn't want to do this. It's our inventory has cut back, way back. My receptionist, manager, we have a rep that would come in, and she said, "Is everything okay?" And she said, "Yeah, why?" And she goes, "Well, we noticed that you haven't placed an order in a long time." And Jody goes, "Well, come here, let me show you something." And we have an open bar dispensary. So she went out and she showed her everything and explained SalonScale. Her next visit, she brought another rep with her and said, "You need to check this out." So like it's not really this way in the Midwest, I don't think, I'm not sure. But I mean, these are like Cosmoprof reps. And I am like, why do you not know this? Why little in Finley do I know it and you not know it? And when we sat the girls around, I said, how many of you have heard of SalonScale? Not one of my stylists have heard of it. And so to me, it's so new, but it is the best thing that you can ever do for yourself or your salon, honestly.
So what I would,
And
if the question came to us, my input would be, know your numbers. Top line revenue does not mean success. Our top line revenue was fantastic, and we were not successful. So you got to know your numbers. If you are unable to know your numbers, or you don't have the capacity to understand it at a level that you need to, bring somebody in that does know it, because there's a lot of people out there. Find someone that can help you understand where your numbers are and understand where you're actually having concerns. And 9 times out of 10, it's usually cost of goods sold or something else is out of whack associated with that. But once you get those things figured out, you'll be able to make the fixes at pinpoint accuracy to get yourself back into a healthy position.
Can they rent you, Brad?
They rent-
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but
We just got Brad 10 for
I said,
yeah, I got a full-time job still.
but way more fun.
Oh, no, yeah.
You can deal with a lot of Megans.
Working with 25 women a day, it's a lot of fun.
Hey.
When you look back at history, right? And 10 years ago, 12 years ago, you see all these salons that are popping up, and I'm thinking, how can they do this? And they were opening up like hotcakes all over the place. And they survived for quite some time because, again, that cost of goods was so low. You can't do it. I mean, the cost that things are. I mean, if these guys haven't figured it out, or they're, in the next month, 6 months, they're going to be out of business. Because a salon making, what's the average salon? I mean, I think a healthy salon is in the 10 to 16% range in terms of returns. And when your cost of goods go up 10%.
Yeah.
High cost of goods and a low profit margin are a bad team.
They're a bad team.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. And I just want to say thank you so much. I think hearing your story, and I just want to thank you too for saying yes to SalonScale, and all of us here are just so grateful for you to take your time with us today. And I just wanted to say, for anyone that is listening, in the show notes, we will have links to go ahead and check out the lovely work at Salon M and get to know more about Megan and Brad. And with that, I want to say, if anyone is also interested in hearing the story and you're wanting to take action, go ahead and head to salonscale.com and go ahead and start your free 14-day trial with us today. And with that, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
guys.